It's Friction here, Tiger Tank 12, however you call me. I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks, where today we have a gameplay of the Chrysler K GF. We are top tier, playing against tier 6, 7, and 8 tanks. And we are in one of the most powerful heavy tanks, tier 4 tier. This is probably one of the most broken premium vehicles that is currently in the game at tier 8, but it has some very annoying features. Now, I usually do not like to play this tank, but currently I'm trying to getting all of my field modifications unlocked for my premium tanks, so I've also been playing the Chrysler K GF, and this tank is an absolute piece of trash, not in the sense of being bad, but it is a very unbalanced tank in this game. In this match, you'll just see how unbalanced it is in a lower tier matchup and how bad it is against even equal tier opponents. So what is the trick on the Chrysler GF? What is the main, strength of this vehicle? It is a heavy tank, it's the armor. This is a rear-faced turret with massive amounts of upper hull armor and a very strong turret. A turret that doesn't really have any real weak spot on top. Now, if you couple that with a gun that is not really the best, it's actually kind of bad. At least the aim time is quite good, 1.9 seconds. The accuracy is okay for 105mm gun, 0.36 dispersion, but you have a shit ton of ammunition. You have 100 rounds that you can fire on this tank. Now, the alpha damage on the gun is a 320. It's a 105mm gun with 320 alpha. That is what you get usually on the American heavy tanks at tier 8. Also, the pen is not that great, 198mm with the AP round. Now, that can be negated, though, by using the premium shells. 260mm of pen with the APCR shells that you have right there. So, what makes this tank so literally unplayable? Well, it has to be its armor. The armor layout on this vehicle is very straightforward. It's just like a Claymore. Point towards enemy. That's all you need to do. Just point your tank towards the enemy and try to hide your lower plate, and basically that's all you need to do. The rest is basically, for most of the enemy, just trying to hit that cupola on top if they are lucky or not, and hoping if they at least can flank you. When they can flank you, you're gonna have a bit of an awkward time, because with this tank the traverse speed is like 32 degrees per second and the turret traverse speed is like 24 degrees per second, so it's quite atrocious, at least with the turret. I think the hull traverse is okay for a heavy tank of this size. It certainly is okay, but it's also not the greatest. So what you can see right here is our team on both sides is a little bit in a pickle. We have a massive amount of troops hiding down in the corner of the map. And we're just having a very frustrating time right now where we are missing shots and we're getting punished for our very, I'd say, arrogant kind of way of playing this tank. I just thought that nothing could really hurt me, and the Bisonte put a 417 damage shell into the lower part of my tank, and also the Panther actually penned me. What you can see on the minimap right now is, though, that we are kind of getting outflanked. There is a lot of stuff coming in. We have a Primo Victoria, we have an M2Y, we have the Bisonte who's waiting for us, and it's basically just a Tiger P, a VK, a Progetto, and a Super Hellcat behind us that are supporting us. So what I want to do in this scenario is I want to reverse and get out of this position where I can get flanked by several vehicles. So that basically when they want to get to me, they'll have to come one by one, and they'll have to go through one way. Unfortunately for us, we're not able to put a shell into the Panther. That would have been a juicy little target, but we do spot that KV2 again, and he seems to be a bit too aggressive. He moves out, he gets completely annihilated by us, and now the enemy team is, they are smelling the victory. They have us pinned in a corner, but they don't know how dangerous we can be when we are pinned in the corner, because we have a great network of support. We have a Super Hellcat in the back, we have a Tiger P right next to us, we have a Brigetto very close on H4, Achilles, Ickwagen, and a VK302, and we still have some tanks down on the 0 and 9 line. So far, we have bounced about almost 3k damage, and we didn't really do too much. We just pointed our tank towards the enemy, and we even did some misplays. Right there, we catch the Hellcat off guard, he tracks us, or he shoots our tracks, and we're trying to just finish him off, get more damage, and hopefully flank the Primo Victoria and the Bisonte C45. We knock him out. The Primo Victoria comes out of his little cave in there, and very awkward. He just sits in front of me. I track him. I'm not really sure how that shot hit the tracks, but it must be some kind of latency, because I always have 140 millisecond ping. And I notice on the minimap that the Bisonte C45 is coming in to support the Primo Victoria. So for me, basically, I want to reverse out of this situation, because I cannot fight an autoloader or an auto reloader and a Primo Victoria at the same time. They would be able to take care of us. But in this moment in time, for me, it's really important that I can back up, that we can hide in this corner, and that we can fight back, choose our battles wisely, and then obviously put some pressure on the guys. I'm still waiting for the Bisonte C45 to peek the corner, and there he shows up, but I'm not able to hit him. And at the same time, I think the Super Hellcat, who's sitting at the back, opens fire now. And you can see my team is doing some serious work. They knocked out the Primo Victoria, they knocked out the Panther. We still have the Scorpion G over there, a T50-2, but the Scorpion G is just about dead. He's going to be knocked out any second now. And what I want to do now is I want to put some pressure on the Bisonte C45, because I obviously have the advantage of having great armor. He has the advantage of being an auto reloader, and we both kind of bounce, because the gun on this thing is not very good. The gun on the Bisonte C45 is okay, I guess, but the tank itself, it's a little bit of a letdown, the Bisonte C45. So, as always, as I mentioned, front towards enemy, and that's all you need to worry about at tier 8. And this Bisonte C45 is basically having the time of his life, running in a circle, reloading, because he's fired all 3 of his shots. And now he really doesn't know what to do. He's just waiting for us to finish him off, making our grand total 3,186 damage dealt and almost 5,000 damage bounced. So basically, you're playing a Minnie Mouse at tier 8 with the Chrysler GF that doesn't really have any weak spot at the front, except for the lower plate that you can hide really, really well. And this was one of the very first vehicles that they sold that was really, really unbalanced. I think this was sold even before the Defender. I think it's older, but I might be mistaken. So obviously correct me on that if I'm wrong. But this thing is probably one of the worst Defenders still at tier 8. The gun is very, very bad. Generally speaking, the mobility is okay. It's nothing too crazy. 35 kilometers per hour used to be quite good, but nowadays it's not. The traverse speed on the tracks, at least I think it's quite nice. But the gun is a bit of a letdown. Accuracy wise, it's okay. It's not the worst with 0.36, but the penetration, the alpha, both of them not very good, but the DPM is quite decent. So when we're talking about the Chrysler GF, since we won this game right here, it's one of these tanks that I do not like to play when I play World of Tanks, because basically you don't really have to do a lot, you don't have to think a lot, you just point your tank towards something, you bounce a lot of the rounds, and you side scrape everything. And if you do that, you're gonna have a jolly good time with this thing. And it's very difficult to take care of. I found myself a couple of times facing this this vehicle in front of me, not being able to really do anything to it because I was in a tier 6 or a tier 7. And yeah, that's when you really just bully anything that's in front of you. I'm not really the biggest fan of this gameplay. I have now finished the field modification on this thing. I am probably going to be making a review since it is a bomb tank. But I just really have the feeling that this is not a very good tank for the game in of itself. But yeah, it's just one of a whole bunch of tanks that are very broken. And yeah, certainly not one of the tanks that I like to play too much because it has quite weird qualities. When you go up against tier 10s, the armor is still working. Actually, the armor does hold up very well, even at tier 10. The only issue is the gun. The gun is pretty useless at tier 10 unless you start spamming premium shells. Now, with premium shells, 260mm of penetration should be enough for certain tanks, but yeah, it's not going to be a guaranteed pen against all the other super heavy tanks that you'll be facing when you're playing against tier 10s. So yeah, a bit of a weird vehicle in of itself with the looks. But I'm gonna finish it here, and yeah, tell me what you think about the Chrysler GF, because I really think that it's not a good vehicle for the game in itself, but I still enjoy playing it because who doesn't like beating up, you know, tier 8s. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a good one.